Hi boys and girls, this is Miss Johnson and I am here to do a science experiment with you today about the density of liquids with salt. Now you're probably saying, Miss Johnson, what is that big word density? We don't know that word. Guess what? You do. Last Friday's science experiment was a sink or float activity and Miss Sorolova did a film to show you all about it. Some of your nature items floated on the top of the water and other materials sank to the bottom. So density determines if something will sink or float. A substance with a greater density than water will sink to the bottom. A substance with a lower density than water will float to the top. So today we're going to experiment with oil and water to find out which liquid has the greater density. Then we're going to put some salt in there and see what happens when we add salt to oil and water. So now let's talk about the materials that we need for this experiment. We need oil, such as canola oil or vegetable oil, salt, a cup of water, and I filled mine with 2/3 of a cup of water, food coloring, and a clear glass. Okay, here's our first step. We're going to take our water and we're going to pour it into our glass. Here we go. 2/3 is more than halfway, but not all the way to the top. Now we need to add some oil. We need a thickness that's about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. Watch what happens when I pour it in. What just happened to the oil when I poured it in with the water? Think about it for a minute. All right, good thinking. So you saw that the oil went down to the bottom, but then came back to the top. So which has the greatest density? Which one's gonna sink to the bottom? Oh, the water's on the bottom. So water has a greater density than oil. Now, let's add a drop of food coloring and find out what happens. All right, we're going to add 1 drop of green food coloring. Okay, watch it. Well, this is interesting. This drop of food coloring is floating on the top. That's not what usually happens. Let me try another one. Did you see that one fall down? Let me try another one. And you could see that one fall down. I don't know why this one drop right here is sitting on the top, but for some reason, it doesn't want to move. But let's talk about these drops that went down here. Let me move the glass so you can see it a little better. See, there they are. Why do you think the food coloring's sitting right there? Let's keep experimenting and find out. Next, we're going to add some salt. Okay, here's some salt. Let's sprinkle it on. Watch carefully. Wow, do you see the green bubbles? The food coloring's dropping from the oil level down into the water. I wonder why that's happening. Let's put some more salt in and find out. Keep exploring with the science of this activity. You can add more water more oil. Experiment with the amount of salt you put in and how many drops of food coloring. Now let's go back and talk about the science of this experiment. When we started, we just had water in our cup. Then we added the oil. The oil floated to the top because it was less dense than the water. Then we added the food coloring that sat right here, sat at the bottom of the oil, but it didn't weigh enough to push its way down. Then we added salt. Now, the salt had a greater density than the oil. It pushed its way through the oil all the way down into the water. When the salt pushed its way through the oil, guess what? The salt grabbed onto the oil and took little bubbles and blobs of it down with it. When they got to the bottom, the salt started to dissolve in water. When the salt dissolved in the water, it let go of the oil, and the oil pushed its way back up to the top. So that's why you saw blobs going down and up, down and up. I hope you have fun with this experiment.